Testing, testing. How is the connection? Hey, everyone. Just the last, and the last preparations. So yeah, hey, whoever's watching me. Um, Long time I haven't been live. The internet situation in our house is still very bad. We still haven't connected directly to the internet service provider, so we are rocking off the neighbor's Wi-Fi, and it hasn't been like the crux of stability of internet. We have issues to the point where I spent all my data plan on my phone, trying to share internet for my computer to have some work done, and then some, right? So yeah, if I'm dropping off, if I'm breaking off, well, that's how it is. Sorry for that. And the reason I'm here now is I have a client assignment to build. It's been due for February, I think. So we started work with this client in February, and I had to come over with a solution for them in February or something. Then the war started, so I got myself some timeout for that, and then. Well, ultimately, I wasn't able to make the courses because I didn't have a chance to, well, sit down and everything peacefully without being bothered for an hour or two. And I sort of, well, this wasn't the first, this wasn't the highest priority. This project wasn't the highest priority, but in the end, what happened is that, well, um I've been already paid for it, a flat fee, so no matter how much time I spend on it, it's not like I'm not making I'm not making any money on it, but it just was, a project. Um, how do you say? So it's personal um, honor, right? Or what do you say? So to finish this thing in a way. So I wouldn't, with so much work done, with so much time spent, with so much thinking put into this project, it's just now I can't allow myself to just drop it, or I know, return the money and say then whatever, I'm not gonna do this. So yeah, I have to do this. One way I've always been able to accomplish something is to start a live stream and build something live, because at least this form of doing things lets me get into, well, tunnel vision zone. I'm working specifically on this project. I cannot get distracted. I spent, like, I time box 2, 3, 4 hours on a particular project, and I keep working on it, and then I keep narrating as well. This time I'll probably will not narrate as much as I'm going to build this project. Well, whom am I trying to fool, right? I'm always saying so, and then I'm always talking like a lot. So what the project is, and and again, it shows me that the internet just dropped off. So yeah, I'll just keep talking, and whatever happens, happens, right? If the stream drops off, well, then the stream drops off. And if you have any questions, the chat is here. So if you have any questions, well, I'm probably won't read the chat as much, but because I need both screens. But well, I'll read the chat time to time, and if you have questions, if you need clarification on what I've done, or what step did you miss because of me dropping off, then feel free to write to the chat. And again, I can drop off of other reasons. There can be air raid sirens. I'm probably not gonna go and find shelter because, well, so far nothing flew in here in our city, so it hasn't been shelled. When they launch an air raid siren, it's usually for the whole region. and besides, nobody knows where the rocket is flying, where the missile is flying. So usually it's not our region. We had one incident so far on the border with the neighboring region. So we are not really hiding, each time these air raid sirens became like a boy who cried wolf for us. So we tend to ignore them. Um, but yeah, there can be other reasons, like somebody will come and need the keys to the warehouse. Somebody may come and ask to help them with something, so I'll drop off and I'll tell you, so I'll have to leave for like 20 minutes or something. But generally, um, if you're here to learn, then it's a bad place to learn, because I'm just going to build, and it's not a concentrated source of information on how I build. It's mostly for an accountability thing for me. So I sit down, I build a thing, I'm on stream, I know that I cannot open adult websites while I'm making a code doc. I cannot get distracted on other things. So yeah, cannot read the news or do whatever, because I feel responsible for streaming the Coda thing. So yeah, this is what these are about. A little bit piece of news about how we've been. So we've been fine. My wife, in addition to volunteering, so the volunteering volume has decreased. Whoever wanted to leave the country, mostly they left, so we don't have a so big flow of people through our borders. So no need for the need for volunteering help on the checkpoints and so on, it has decreased, and so has the number of the amount of announcements that we were posting. So every humanitarian center already recruited their volunteers, so they now prefer to work with whoever they already know. We recruited our own volunteers, so in a way we don't seek as many. We still help the internally displaced people. We hand out food and items of personal care and the first need of the first needs items that are the primarily needed, like soap and some food and clothing and so on, blankets. We work with several organizations like Medical Sans Frontiers, or MSF, the Doctors Without Borders, right? And a few others to hand out these humanitarian aid, and so on. So this goes on. Everyone's accustomed to this. It's become a part of our routine. Yeah. Then my wife has also co-purchased with one of her colleagues from the life insurance business. They co-purchased a new business with a production of prefab food, like dumplings, pierogi. You may know, a Polish thing. It's also a thing in Ukraine. All sorts of dumplings, cabbage rolls, so whatever is prefabricated can be either freezed or cooled, and then people buy it and they cook it at home, and it's pretty popular here. And they bought they are starting marketing it. So it's an old Instagram page, but still. All sorts of prefab food, like cordon bleu and these sorts of dumplings. We have some ideas about how to make this more modern, even though it's like traditional and mom and pop, basically. So they're like elder ladies. The dough is prepared with automated dough makers, but they still mold these things by hand. So this is all handmade. And it's an interesting business to be in. So we are invested in this a little bit, and I'm helping there. time to time. Like yesterday, we brought in a few big, forgot the word, so the big packages of flour. Yeah, yeah, and then the project, the client that I've been talking about is Hytte. Hytte is like a hut, yeah, retreat hut. Hytte modular houses where you have things like that. So these are modular houses that are also prefabbed. They are prefabricated at the production site. I'm wondering if there is a video in there anywhere. From the warehouse. Let me see if there is some. So yeah. Yeah, the prefab houses, a very interesting project, a very interesting local project, and they basically they asked if anyone could build them a back office system. They asked my friend, and my friend referred me, and we are now working together to make basically everything about back office for this production. It's a small production yet. It's capable of producing 2 houses. Like, I don't know, it's the timeline is something like 4 months to produce a house, and they can produce 2 at a time because the warehouse facility has 2 spots for assembling the pieces. And they basically need everything about warehouse management, production management, the budget, being able to forecast when certain project will be ready, be able to forecast the production cost of a project. So nothing that Coda cannot do, right? Coda is Coda is great for these sorts of things. It's like it's not a huge business yet; it's a small local one. And it has a lot of custom things to it. For instance, some products are purchased in one currency, in local currency, and some products are purchased in United States dollars. So this needs to be tracked separately. There can be different vendors, so every time the cost changes, and especially now that we have all the logistics chains disrupted, right? The seaport is blocked in Ukraine. The biggest seaports in Odessa, Mariupol, and others are blocked. So they need to find other ways to get in the commodities, the raw materials for this. So yeah, they need some business analytics for that. And I honestly tried to approach this problem several times already. So I already built a fair share of a database for this back in February, and it became so much of a Frankenstein's monster that I just had to drop it because everything was very connected. And I had this idea that I will build everything from a single doc because the team is not very big. You don't really need the separation of access for now. So I thought I would build it in a connected way. I even managed to make some user interfaces and some estimation UIs and some, I don't know, and some things like I've been, by the way, I think it's Scott, right, that I'm getting that I got some inspiration from for being these boxes with an icon and some calculation using columns for that, and in using icons basically from Coda like this. So I think it's Scott, right? So with simpler docs that started doing this, and I got inspired by it. So I thought of tracking everything through a single doc, but then I just realized that I could not. First, the requirements changed because the landscape changed. The war started, and now we are like, for instance, they are not building 3 types of houses or 5 types of houses. They are now offering only one type of house, and well, other things are more important, like tracking how much a house will cost with given in given circumstances, that the prices change and everything got much more costly to build, right? So I started over, and again I hit a wall that um, I hit a wall that everything was like super complicated. Even though I tried to keep it simple, everything was super connected and super complicated. And I realized that maybe one way to do this is to go fully modular, like the houses themselves, to go fully modular and build these pieces absolutely separately. The financial tracker, I started working on it already. The warehouse tracker, the whatever, to build this separately and then connect it either with CrossDock, and now we have CrossDock Plus connected with CrossDock Plus, um, and um, it's a good thing that I now have full control over how I can get data across multiple docks. So I can use CrossDock Push, for instance. I can use CrossDock Plus to push rows somewhere or push multiple rows. So in my CrossDock Plus, what I'll add, probably the next thing, is get row, add rows, absurd rows, whatever the bulk operations. We need this. Anyway, we need this. So yeah, I decided to go modular, and judging by the what the customer tells me, they will need it separate, because well, different people will be responsible for different parts. Like there's going to be a person responsible for managing the warehouse, but they should not see the rest of the system, like all the budget, the whatever. They just have to work with the warehouse part. And with that, I decided, yeah, to go modular. And honestly, one thing that I disliked doing, and I probably said that already, I'm not starting off my starter template anymore, because I don't like that so many things are imported at the beginning. I'm much more comfortable working off the blank slate and adding things rather than having a template and then removing things. So I'll probably, whenever I have time and resources, I'll rethink my starter template altogether, and instead come up with a way to maybe with a bunch of modular templates and with a way to integrate them together. So to add things rather than have a kitchen sink and then delete things. With that said, what I'll do, I got myself a tablet, and I thought I would draw you some I'll draw you some charts, right? How I see this, but I probably won't. I will just start a new blank doc, and I will open it in a different window, and I'll try to keep it smaller so that I still see the chat and if there are any messages in the chat. So yes, I can still see the chat like this, and I can still see the doc like this, and the stream is sort of going on, and I'll probably, so that you have, so you don't listen to the absolute silence, I will probably start my brain. Oh well, remember I said that I had to connect my phone to the computer um, to broadcast some better selection of music from this service. So they finally made a revamp. So there's the old brain.fm, now there's my.brain.fm. I wish I could give you oh well, there are referral codes. I'm talking about this service so much. So there is actually oh gosh, no, I'll probably just send it to the chat and it will not even let me send the promo code for into the chat because it's a long link. Okay, they didn't think this through really. But yeah, if you're interested in this service, I guess this promo code should work. And will it work? Will it work? Let me see. Well, maybe it works. Anyway, not looking for anything. I've paid for it for a few hours, for a few years already. What I like is that it's basically royalty-free focus music, that I don't have to worry about that YouTube will block my stream. I don't know if it's royalty-free. I have no idea if it's if it's royalty-free, but so far it's been working fine. I've been broadcasting this music along my streams, had no problems with that, and yeah, I'll just start it. Let me know if it's too loud, and I'll listen to it myself, and I'll turn off my mic as well. Actually, no, I will not turn off my mic. I hope there is no feed from my mic, no feedback from my mic that you can hear. Probably should make it a bit more silent, like this. And so that there is absolutely no feed from my mic, I'll probably switch to my headphones and hope that nobody gets into my house and robs it while I cannot hear a thing. Oh, now you cannot hear the music. Okay, let me check. Let me check. Okay, let me know if you can hear me and if the volumes are okay, and if the quality is fine. And I'll check for myself as well. Testing, testing. Yeah, everything's okay. The delay is like 15 seconds or something between what I say and what gets back in the stream. So, and Pomodoro, right? So first thing, yeah, we're building the database, and in a way this was built somewhere here. So there's materials, right? There's the material, there's the units in which the materials are, so material types, material units, and then we have projects, and then we have anyway, let's just start over, right? actually just materials, and probably this will and it's always a question whether you want to track like the aggregations, like the summary of how much of the material you have in here, um, if you want to track it in this particular table, or you want to separate the list of materials and the table where you track these things. Because it can always be that maybe you have two warehouses and you are trying to track things per warehouse, so it maybe that's what I'm gonna do. And my wife is calling me and I need to mute myself and pick up the phone. Yeah, my wife decided to ask me why I haven't called her in a day and that she's not trying not to bother me. I told her I'm on stream. So yeah, sorry for that. Yeah, I was saying. So let's have the DB material um, types and all the aggregations separately, just because I feel that it's gonna work better in a better way. Um, Previously, I was supporting the idea that you combine as much as you can, so you use as few tables as you need, and if there is something that tells you, okay, it's a plywood, it's everything about plywood, you keep it on a single table with very wide structure. Now I'm thinking the other way, get more modular with your setups, because it's gonna be much more manageable that way. So um, whatever, just three um, pieces. Uh, these are lookup tables, which is another way of saying it's a small. Yeah, superscript. something like this. And let's keep a very simple structure of projects, because we can then extend the dimension with like clients, projects, houses. So db, and this will probably be a cross-doc table at some point. Or not, because they are, the company is going to buy more materials in advance, and we kind of have to allocate. So they have to allocate. Okay, we bought like the mineral foam for 4 houses, and we need to allocate this foam that that just came in into the future houses. So there already there has to be records for the future constructions, and given that they are of a single type, so they will all have somewhat the same requirements on the house. So this is a thing that needs to be solved, but this is a real requirement that we will have. So there in a way has to be this redistribute resources thing, but well, it actually makes sense because it's like db. The actual house will be a mix-in column, a cross-dock from projects. So then this means there is an actual house in production, and it makes sense to do this, as I said, modularly. So this will, like, whenever we get like 4 packs of mineral foam, we will know that even if nothing is production just yet, we will generate. So there's a mineral foam worth of 4 houses, and we know, or we can assume, that they will be of a typical project, so they will require the same amount of mineral foam, and we will already allocate that. So already create these houses in advance and allocate and allocate the resources whenever they come to the warehouse, allocate them to each future house, or future or actual house, so both actual and future houses. And here is gonna be the sheet that will actually track the balances. Right now it's just one warehouse. As I said, there may be multiple warehouses, and it's one reason why I decided to separate the material type from the balances. The balances will have rather complicated calculation logic. That this is gonna be the material, like the summary. It's gonna be the material type. And one of the good practices, so that we don't confuse rows from this table with the rows from the material table, is to have something prepended or appended to the balance itself, so it can be actually it can as well be an emoji. So the material itself, but the balance is, well, something like this. Then we need to track that we bought something, right? We purchased something. And eventually we'll have to connect this to the financial tracker. So a purchase, we sort of need to, we need to not just have the units, we should also have the currencies. Let's see if I can. Does this thing work? Copy to doc to the to this one. And it copied it here somehow. So DB currencies, which will also probably be at some point a cross doc. And the way I set up conditional formatting on it is that I have a self column that is just this row, and this gives me an option to easily select the you don't have to write a formula. You can then select by simply checking the proper value in the lookup column. We have material purchases, and one of the another things that I thought of adding, and maybe that initially made it more complicated to actually implement this, was that I had like expected and actual, both on the dates. So if you were only going to purchase something, it was not in the warehouse yet, but maybe the money were already paid on it, or maybe the price has changed in transit and a different amount was paid than initially planned. So I thought of complicating this, but then ultimately I haven't actually decided what to do with that. So imagine we purchased 10 square meters of plywood and we only got 8, but we already planned for the 10 square meters of the plywood. Anyway, let's do it this way. Material. The fun part will be the user interface for all of this. Let's say this is the material. Let's say we have a date where it came, or date and time. The task here now is to have it as simple as possible. So let's just have the material, the amount, maybe let's have the not sure if we will have the cost. Let's have the cost. and the currency. Yeah, so these are restocks, and this will ultimately be connected to the financial transactions. But the goal here now is to calculate the cost of producing a house, right? Um, so we purchased this much, costing this much. We probably also need um, suppliers. Oh, and suppliers, with suppliers, I'll probably have to also um, separately track the last known cost of materials, so that I can in a way see that, okay, we can get plywood from these two suppliers. One has it at this price point, another has it at this price point, and there's a person who can like update the prices for each supplier. Then one can make better decisions about whom to order from. um, Even though I'm not sure if this works, so I'm not gonna complicate this just yet. I'll check with the business owner on that. I think on Thursday we have in the evening we will have a session where we will. Um, So we so the way this has to happen is that okay, so we restock some, right? So we bought like 100 square meters of plywood, and we know that one house needs maybe 30 meters of plywood, square meters of plywood, just whatever numbers, I don't know the exact numbers. We allocate what do we allocate then? Oh well, then it's in a way it's easy. So we have a restock, right? We have material allocations. We take the part of the restock. So yeah, this is like summary. Oh. So yeah, we get like 100 meters per, and then we buy plywood and we buy another 150 meters, but at the total cost of 2,000, right? And that's the dollars again. And it's like a discounted price in a way. And we have material allocations of into the first house we allocate a part. 30 units. And we allocate another 30 units. And to the second house, to the third house. Okay, we allocate 40, we allocate again 40, and then we allocate the rest 20, and then from the other plywood allocation we allocate the 20, right? can look up. This way we can track how much of the, so if this is fully allocated, then we cannot use this anymore. We can either add a conditional formatting on it, or we can get any other logic. So we already allocated this batch of plywood to 3 houses, so fully allocated to house 1, fully allocated to house 2, and only partially half of the required amount of plywood was allocated from this restock. So remember that the ultimate goal here for me is to calculate the cost, the production cost of the house. And one way that we need to know is that prices for materials change. So first we purchase this much at this cost, then we purchase this much at this cost, and we need to know that the total cost of materials for this house will amount to this much. For the next house, it will be a different number. So we will see some fluctuation in that. But we need to be able to predict the price of the next house based on how the restocks were going. So this sort of analytics, that's why I'm connecting it this way. Again, it's a bespoke use case for this business. So for other businesses it might be different, but this is how we need to get it calculated. And we have material allocations. We used this many units, so this is important to keep track that we are not overusing the material, the restock. And here we keep a link to a restock so that we can say that okay, the price is basically amount divided by restock amount multiplied by restock total cost. So this is like 20 meters of plywood to 003 from the restock at We need to somehow connect to the restock, so let's still have a date. So let's say this happened on the 15th, this happened on the 17th. We have material allocation, and the summary will say plywood from now that we have houses in production, we can have the material allocations, and this is filter by house. And a few more things is that, well, we probably shouldn't track it like that directly. We should track, so we have the houses, and we should probably track separately the materials per houses, so that right now this gives us nothing. I know that, okay, we need to, the total cost so far is $230 or whatever for plywood, but we haven't yet calculated anything from the other materials. Even though it may tell us already that judging by plywood, it's already going to be a cheaper house than the previous one, so the plywood cost has changed. So there has to be a separate matrix of projects and materials. I need to go on a short break just because I feel like I need to go on a short break. I know that I still have 8 minutes to work on, but I'll probably just stop this one and take a short break, and I'll get back to you in like 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes actually. Take a short, do we wait? Okay, I guess short break 5 minutes, long break 15 minutes, and take a short break now. something makes some noises outside, to very quickly go check on what's happening in there. Someone is trying to fix their car and apparently is doing that with a hammer. Or they're trying to kickstart it, but it won't. So, anyway, back to the tracker. How has the connection been so far? Because it seems like what do you think about the, by the way, what do you think about the new subpages, buttons slash links? This is the smallest size they can be. I used to like them, personally I used to like them more when they could be links rather than these huge buttons that are bigger than the actual buttons you can get in your dock. Alright, so we have allocations, we have houses in production, and we will probably have another page that will read houses and materials. Simply because I don't know of any better name. House material, okay, house material allocation. So there's gonna be the house, it's gonna be the material type, there can also be something like project types, and it's also probably gonna be a common so we need something like this. So a project or house types, basically, because a project can have multiple houses. And the cost and everything, we will have that perhaps later and separately. House types, and we'll have a house material requirements. House type, material amount. Actually, I shouldn't call them material types, just call them materials. Because we have material balances and material or material amounts in stock or whatever. Material balances, I guess. This type of house needs plenty worth of plywood. This type of house needs 30 types of plywood. This needs 40. This belongs on the house type. It affects the calculation of all allocations, so we don't need that, by the way. And so we have plywood for each of these houses. They are all 3-module houses or something, and let's look up in allocation. A required amount comes directly from the house material requirements filter by house type equals house in production Mouse type, actually, let's bring it as a related column. And material is row type amount. And let's just take a sum, but I think it's, well, the first one, because there's going to be just one row for the union of material and type. So material required amount, actual amount, it's allocation records, amount sum. We can have something nice like a allocation level, which is the part amount divided by actual amount multiplied by 10. This won't let me make the column narrower. Why is that? Can't go any narrower than this for some reason, okay? And the cost, we will calculate this as the allocation records. And there's another thing with cost is that what if we have different currencies here? We have to, in a way, collate that to one of the currencies so that we have the cost estimated in one of the currencies. I think it needs to be collated to USD because that's ultimately what will happen. at which point do I calculate the... Oh, I guess that's what I'll do. In material allocations, I'm interested that to get the... So at this level of restocks, at the level of restocks, it's a person entering, so they got a shipment of some material, of plywood for instance, and they enter into the table that they received 100 square meters, and they paid this much for it, either $1,000 or a 27,000 Ukrainian hryvnias or whatever. And this is what they enter. And when they enter, there's some exchange rate on that day, and we collate, well, automatically the cost in dollars, so that we need to track it on this level, that total cost in USD. And if it's already in dollars, we just copy the which is basically copy the number, but here we need to, well, calculate the cost in specifically dollars, because at this point we will calculate these towards the balances, right? The actual money exchanges that took place, but these we need to... But these we simply need for estimation, so that we could know that material allocations, we allocated this much to house 1 and estimated USD cost is the USD cost, right? Something tells me that I'm already getting a little bit tired. A little bit tired I am. I need to get this finished. And I can go on a longer break. Put my back on the couch. And if something is not allocated, it will try and interpolate. So let's say this allocation never took place. Probably didn't properly divide required amount. Guess it should be like 8 or something. And here it's all correct because yeah, we basically multiply by the required amount, divide by actual amount. So yeah, we estimate that if we have no new shipment, but if we have then a shipment at this cost, the estimated cost for this particular material is this much, and we can this, and we can then look up and and uh, and yeah, and now we need to make it so that now we can actually start building. We actually can start building building some interfaces, and we can start building some logic here as well. So let me just think that, how do we do that? So I already don't really like that this belongs in this doc. This should be very much an import table, I think. So everything about house types and everything about that should be imported from somewhere else. this doc's concern should only be the this doc's concern should only be tracking the warehouse. So things came in, things got out. We know how many, what's the amount currently in the warehouse, so what was like used or what was just allocated but not used. Need to give it a quick thought. Actually, no. The person who adds the data into the warehouse tracker, they will a person that does, and I need to think of how to best organize this, because I can still think of these. I can still have them in the same doc, but think of them as modularized things. I think I've complicated this in a way because material allocations should not be like normally should not be tied to housing production. So you just use. So this link is already a link between modules, so that it was allocated to a house in production or whatever. No, it's not really a good idea to. It's not really a good idea to keep everything in a single doc in their own separate docs either. To think of it, so. So there will be a doc, a separate doc that will, like a Viva Pizza one, that will serve as an input form for okay, this much of this material just arrived, so we received this much into our warehouse. This is the supplier, or it can be a form, simply a form. So this is the supplier that we used. This is whether it's cost per item, per unit, or is the total cost. It normally is gonna be the total cost of things. They just fill out the form. You need to take a few steps back. So let me copy this. There's not gonna be the currencies. There's not gonna be this at all. We Hey Humdrum, great to see you as well. Even though I don't see you, I can read you. Yeah, let's get rid of all that. So that already tapped into what's not really a warehouse. So let's clean these things up. We have units, we have materials, right? We have the balances, we have the amounts that come into the warehouse. We have allocations that don't get connected to any of the just estimated cost, and we just assume that everything is calculated in the in USD, right? In the United States dollars. So we and make it, yeah, the simplified version. So, and yeah, here we have the material, we have all the restocks from that material. now we basically need to make sure that we don't over allocate, right? Each given restock, and that the restocks are sorted by restock date, the allocations are sorted by and I'm thinking again whether we need to add something like expected, so you enter the restock that you're still waiting to receive, and then the expected amount, the actual amount, and so on. Whether that makes sense to track. Let me think. Because when I I'll still have to implement the reallocation mechanism of like recalculating actually the reallocation mechanism here is well let's say the amount that came in 90. So we need to track that this restock already gets out of, is already invalid. We cannot take 20 square meters of a restock that only had 90 meters. We already took the first 40 and it's okay. We took the second 40 and it's okay. We take the next 20 and it's not okay, and we can only track this properly if we sort this by, it is probably lots of lag because, as I said, I have very bad internet connection here. We don't have our own internet connection. We are stealing off our neighbors because it's war in here and nobody would provide us internet, so we just had to buy a bunch of Wi-Fi routers and set up a bridge basically through two routers to our friends who live in the neighboring house. So that's why the internet is not very stable here. That's why there is a lot of lag. Sorry for that. It's gonna be better when we get our online. Let's calculate allocation of validity here. So we will iterate from 1 to allocations count, and we will see if the, so this is how we calculate the cumulative, right? The sum. So here it's 40, here it should be 40 plus 40, here it should be 40 plus 40 plus 20. So allocations slice from 1 to current value. And here we get that the cumulative is 40, then 80, then 100. And we don't need the full allocated amount, basically. We need that the allocation cumulative sums are like this. For some reason it's like 0, 0. And if that sum is more than the amount we need, say, so allocation validity, or actually less or equal than the amount. And this means that, well, first we only need to run through this if allocations are count is more than 1. We do this. Oh, a tab started working here. Great. I don't have to open the big editor now for this. I can just click tab and indent the formula right in a small window. Otherwise, I just take allocations sum, allocations amount, then the amount. If it's 100, then it's all true. And if it's 90, then true, true, false. And this allocation comes from this restock